And what are we going to do about it? Jason Bermas is our guest. I'd love to think that, I mean, I was really heartened prior to the Christmas period with the conduct of the UK media, particularly the Mail. It won't let Prince Andrew go, the Daily Mail. It's after him. And that's a good thing, talking about his tax business, dealings, dodgy dealings he's been doing around the world, tax shelters, all this sort of stuff. They're really going after him. And I just wonder now, I know it's only 6 days into the new year. There hasn't been very much in the press in the last few days. And then I saw this story in the Mail today, and that took me to you, even though we'd agreed to speak a couple of days ago. And I just wonder, are you concerned, Jason, that brilliant that CBS have done what they've done, but that this might just fizzle away in the coming weeks?
I mean, I've been concerned since day one. I'm not going to let this story go, Richie. That's the bottom line. And there are other people like myself that refuse to let this story go, and that's a good thing. We can't let this story go because Epstein is really, although a very intricate part, a very small part because of how many decades his power and abuse spanned and how many names, whether they be presidents or princes, Richie, he was involved with. Les Wexner is not just the limited guy. He's not just a fashion guy. I encourage people to go read the leaked Wexner report that came out after the fall of Saddam that was leaked out there that showed that Les Wexner and his group are really about Israeli policy in the Middle East and full spectrum dominance there with the aid of the U.S. military-industrial complex. That's why I always talk about this Anglo-American, Israeli-Saudi alliance in that region. They want to dominate the entire region, Richie, and they will do anything they can, my friend. And if that means blackmail, if that means arms dealing, a.k.a. Iran-Contra, Adnan Khashoggi, remember, Vicky Ward said Adnan Khashoggi had a connection to Epstein. That would make sense. Adnan Khashoggi, what was he? A Saudi Arabian billionaire facilitating the arms trade. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't that passport have a Saudi Arabian alias and address and stamps on it for Epstein? That's a pretty big coinky-dink. I wonder what the dates are and why we don't know those dates yet, Richie. Yeah. I mean, come on.
And we heard over the weekend, didn't we? That I know you touched on this, but I want to come back to it. Maxwell has apparently surrounded herself with ex-Navy SEAL guys.
We'll see.
She must be convinced. Well, you would imagine that she believes that she's marked for death, right?
Well, let's talk about this right now. Because like you said, the Daily Mail has done some great work, and I want to tell people this. They were one of the people that originally put Virginia Giuffre Roberts' story out there way back in 2010. And they're actually, some of those documents, those news stories were part of the 2,000-page data dump. Now, I think we have to be very careful with all the different things that are coming out about this case, especially with Ghislaine Maxwell. Why? Well, initially, when she was in Boston, days later, we get pictures of her in L.A. that obviously have photoshopping outside of an In-N-Out. Then we have that viral internet story that was completely fake that people tried to push about her writing an Amazon review about the spy book that she was clearly holding. She's trying to put out her own disinfo, and the people that are working with her, aka those that want to not be exposed, are also working with her. Now, on the flip side of that, remember, the media was trying to push that she was going to come out and do a tell-all interview. Well, none of that was true. What was that? That was Prince Andrew and his PR crew putting out media disinfo to try to pressure her into doing that as the stories came out that he was trying to get her to do an interview. Now, we also have the stories out there that are saying they have a friend source, and she was relieved that Epstein was killed or died because she doesn't want to be flipped on. I think that the Navy SEAL story could either be complete disinformation or just partially true, in the sense that it's very possible that she's hiring Blackwater type, Academy type, private military group bodyguards, and some of them may be ex-Navy SEALs. But I do believe that the reports are true that she is being protected from country to country. Now, obviously, they've put out the United Kingdom and Israel as those countries. Remember, this is a possible and more than likely an active intelligence asset. They love disinformation, Richie. So I'm always careful, man. I report on these things, but I always report on them with a caveat. Obviously, she's being protected in some manner. Whether the locations we've been given and the manner she's being protected are accurate, I think we gotta remain skeptical.
Yeah, it's good. Report, but don't endorse. That's very good. Don't claim it to be fact. Yeah, because before this whole, Navy SEAL story, stories ran here that she was in talks with some of the big networks in the US to do it all. And that seems to be absolute bullspit as well, doesn't it? And to be honest with you, not that I know anything about this sort of espionage or intrigue, but if I was advising her, I would probably say to her, at this stage, there's no harm in doing an interview with somebody, one of the heavyweight CNN anchors or somebody like that, and just do what Andrew did, but do it better than Andrew did it, because nobody could do it worse than Andrew did it. I'd be saying to her now, go on television and say, listen, some of these girls, I don't know, I don't know, whatever, deny. But maybe that would be a foolish thing for her to do. I don't know.
I think it'd be extremely foolish. I mean, that Andrew was, and apparently there was a time period when not only did Prince Andrew not party, but he couldn't physically sweat. I mean, when I watched that whole thing, when those things happen, I'm one of those guys that I won't do a report until I watch the entire, video. I watched that thing and marked down so many obvious lies that, right on the spot, you could tell. I was like, why would he agree to do this? But then again, I don't live overseas and in that culture, and I don't know what goes through his mind.
Let me briefly do what I don't do. I'm going to interrupt you there, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Listen, you're right. It was. I've never seen anything as dreadful as it. I watched it live as it went out. What you said there about the sweating, I have this condition where I don't sweat. It's laughable stuff. What I can't understand is, and people are putting it down to the arrogance of the aristocratic class or whatever. I'm not buying this. It would have been very, very easy for him to do the interview with Emily Maitlis from Newsnight, which he did, and sit there and say, listen, I'm profoundly horrified by these things that are being said. I'm horrified. I'm sorry for these girls. It's a terrible thing, and I'm sorry for their families, but I don't know anything about this. I knew or know Maxwell, and I knew Jeffrey. We did some stuff together, and I'm sorry that these things are being said, but I didn't do it. I swear to God and Sonny Jesus, but I'm sorry for these girls, and I hope they get all the help they need. Jesus Christ, Jason, it's easy to do that.
Yeah, but here's the caveat to that.
He did. Go on.
Here's the caveat. We only really know about Virginia Giuffre Roberts other than Epstein because she's publicly named people and gave those stories to the Daily Mail initially and other news outlets that didn't touch it, right? Yeah. There are 30 plus women in Florida alone that we know about. We have more people coming forward. And although they haven't publicly named other people, they are named in these court documents. And if we get a 10,000 page dump on January 16th, there could be a lot of other names that have Virginia Giuffre Roberts couldn't have been with just everybody that is being named in these cases. So, I think it's up for debate where this is going. With him saying that, what if 15 other women name him? What if he's named by 15 other women, Richie? Then that's going to go, out the window. So
very salient point, and it might look that it shoots down my theory, but I'm going to raise you this, right? I think you might be right. There might be other girls there, and well, we know there's at least one girl who's claimed against Andrew. Well, in that case, then he just wouldn't do the interview. This is what I can't figure out. I can't figure this out.
I mean, sibling rivalry is a real thing, even with Charles and Philip when you think about it, and even his sons. So I don't know. Maybe Charles. There was a lot of reports Charles was pissed that this had gone, so public with Andrew. I can't tell you. Maybe, his PR people. Believe me, I was as shocked as you were, but I was shocked they arrested Epstein in the first place. Maybe it's just one of life's quirks, man. Maybe every once in a while we get a win and we get to see these demons for what they are up close because of a human mistake. Because at the end of the day, Richie, I believe we are all human and we are all fallible. And I think that, really comes into play when you look at Epstein's cell and how many things don't make sense with their theory. You would think that somebody that could, get this murder done, I'm going to call it a murder of Epstein, that they would, make the crime scene look realistic, that there wouldn't be all these anomalies that were easily pointed out by CBS, but yet it happened. So, I would just point to, human fallibility. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect.
Or we're in a dream within a dream. No, no,
We're
no.
the simulation of the simulation, my friend.
But you know what? The reason I say that, I'm not going to go all David Icke. I'm saying that not because I think we are in a dream within a dream, but because maybe at some stage we have to consider the possibility, even though we don't have any evidence to back it up, that somebody made it look as bad as they did deliberately.
That's also a possibility, man. Or somebody got rushed out. Yeah, I mean, without any tapes of the cell, it's going to be one of those mysteries that I fear are never going to be unraveled. And it's unfortunate because we've had these throughout our natural lifetime and beyond that, Richie. I mean, when you look again.
Sorry to interrupt you. I have to say this. I've got to say this. It's hilarious me talking to you because you've been dealing your entire adult life with tapes going missing and tapes being erased. And I don't say that for a laugh. I'm laughing because I'm incredulous. You talked, I mean, your work on September the 11th is stellar. I mean, Christ, the amount of tapes that the machines didn't work, the video cameras didn't work. We could talk about the assassination of Princess Diana, whole street loads of CCTV cameras just suddenly decide not to work. The modus operandi is sickeningly simple every time, isn't it?
Lost the OKC tapes. I mean, we go on and on. What they didn't lose in the OKC tapes were all those news coverage of the actual bomb trucks going in and taking out bombs 3, 4, and 5. And, I forget what Chuck Keating, I believe it was. I want to say it was Chuck Keating. I think it was the governor going on live television talking about the bomb trucks getting the internal bombs out there. But, the CCTV footage of the explosion actually happening, that disappears. So, I don't want to get into all these other things, but you're absolutely 100% right. And once again, I think that Trump came in there swinging his Johnson, thinking he was going to be Superman. He was telling us that we were going to get the JFK information. And listen, when he twice failed on that, I warned everybody. I said, look, if he can't reveal the deep state from 50 plus years ago, he's not revealing the deep state and taking them down now. And unfortunately, Richie, he's really just become another tool of that media, military, industrial complex apparatus, whether he realizes it or not.
Jason, just before we go today, folks, if you want to see the forensic examination of the Epstein cell photographs of the body and the nooses, go to youtube.com/InfoWarrior. And we're talking to a real independent content creator today, real independent journalism. I said to Paul Craig Roberts earlier on, you're like hen's teeth, real independent writers and filmmakers, sadly, but that's the way it is. We got to make do with what we have. So I'll be looking forward to watching this video when we finish up in a couple of minutes' time. Just a quick, I know I shouldn't say that, a quick word on what happened last Friday. Paul Craig Roberts is convinced that the Israeli government's influence over Trump led to the assassination of Soleimani. We touched on it briefly. Gerald Celente, the great trends forecaster, good guy Gerald, reckons we're seeing the opening salvos of what might become a global conflict. What do you think?
Whew, that's, again, what I spent like an hour on, going, the ifs and ands. I'd say this. They've wanted this for a long time. This is not a small nation. This is 60 million plus people. They have a real military. Russia's not just going to roll over. This is a really bad thing. As far as the assassination of Soleimani, again, when we know that prior to that, there were already secret pacts being signed between Trump and Netanyahu, and, Trump just seems to go by everything they say. Remember, the story of the stingrays and the surveillance Israeli group that was found in Washington, D.C. was just shunned off by Trump and his administration. It was laughed off. Apparently he's just going to take Netanyahu's word for it. And remember, Israel is diverse. Netanyahu isn't Ehud Barak, but Ehud Barak isn't a good guy either. He's actually connected to Epstein, very heavily, by the way. But Netanyahu seems to be more warlike, more willing to use his military. So to say that Israel wasn't involved in that call, I would say is a misnomer. But to say they're absolutely involved in that call, I'm not sure yet. But obviously, again, that Anglo-American, Euro-Israeli alliance in that region for full spectrum dominance, get NATO all the way in there, get military bases in there. That's what they've wanted for a long, long time, Richie. And I hope they don't get it. I hope we're not dumb enough to go to war. But with Iran putting an $80 million price tag on Trump's head, that's not chump change, okay? It really isn't. And you have real mercenaries out there. And what I really do fear is now they're naming, Trump Plaza and all these other targets as viable targets. Listen, the possibility of a false flag of somebody that's real and allowed to do this, or a more manufactured one like in 93 with the World Trade Center bombing, where they took an Egyptian army officer, Ahmad Salam, had him make a bomb with the aid of the FBI and then give it to the terrorists, and they set it off. That's a possibility too. There are a lot of possibilities that really scare me, Richie. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see this pop off. I think that we need to get out of Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Iraq. We need to get out of the AFRICOM situation. I know we just had an incident in Kenya. Well, I'm sick of us being all over the world acting like the policemen when really we're just interested in dominating the regions and dominating the resources.
Jason, thanks for your time today. Folks, go to youtube.com/InfoWarrior. Follow Jason on Twitter. It's at Jason Bermas. And check out Jason is putting up films, videos, broadcasts on a daily basis. But do check out I'm going to watch it myself, the Epstein report by Jason today on the release of those photographs from the cell. Again, mate, Happy New Year to you. Thanks for your excellent work and for your humility and for being willing to listen to people who take a different point of view than you.